Welcome, everyone. Welcome once again to In Touch. Once again, Dr. John Nowicki is with us. How are you, sir?
Man, doing great. Thanks for having me again. It's always a pleasure to be here.
It appears that we're into another season without anyone telling us.
Yeah, crazy, right? It just flipped. The
Just
calendar's
right overnight.
Yeah, the calendar's wrong. I thought fall arrives on the 21st or 20th of September, but man, here it is, right?
Yeah, it
50
got us.
50 degrees. I've heard frosts already that people
That's
are
right.
reporting. Crazy, and with that we got fall sports seasons, the football, everything else, and frankly, we've talked about this in the past, the concussion issue. All right, there's new stuff coming out every day. The key thing for parents is having the ability to know that there's a smart way to allow your child to play collision and contact sport.
Right.
And in my office, what I tell all my parents that have children of that age, 9, 10, 11-year-olds and upwards, is that we've got to do the new gold standard baseline test. All right. Now, if that shows any kind of issues, then we got to dig a little deeper. There's more neurological tests that you can do. You got to be personal about it. It's I understand there's the impact test being done locally. That's great. We're doing something. But there's issues with that. I'm hearing from coaches that are the Wisconsin side that when they went to the seminars offered to coaches around the state down in Madison, the talk of the town is the impact test really isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing. And parents are feeling this too, that they don't feel safe with just that. And kids are gaming it. Athletes do everything they can to be back in there with their buddies playing. So what these kids are doing is they're sandbagging their score on the test. And the impact test is basically an IQ test. So you just play dumb, drop your score down, and then you're back to, of course, as smart as you were when you walk out from the impact test. You get a hit on the field, and they retest you, and it's like, oh, now you do the best you can, and your score's lower, but it's where you sandbagged it earlier. So, no problem. Go back and play. You got a score of 70 or 72 or 68. That's what you were at when we pre-tested you, so go play. The problem is then the athlete goes out there and plays, being the sport that he or she is, and you set yourself up for another hit to the head. Okay, and that brings up that second concussion syndrome, which resulted in 15 deaths on the field last year. All right, 15 kids lost their lives because they went back to play before the brain was functionally healed. So you've got to make sure that brain is functionally healed. That's why you want a personalized baseline test, and we offer those at my office, and they're only $20. Okay. They're only $20, and what you get is the current gold standard baseline test, plus if there's any history of hits to the head, any concerns for the parent, we dig deeper. And the parent gets to see, and they know, we pre-frame the results of each test, so the parent knows what that child should get, what their performance should be, and then we do the test. And the parent basically tells me, looks good, or woof. That's not so good. All right, it's obvious.
Sure.
There's the ambiguity ends when you walk into my clinic. All right, we're going to give you that confidence that, hey, my kid's recovered from a hit, or my kid's good. Now we got a baseline test. He or she is all cleared. And yeah, folks out there, she as much as he. In fact, hour for hour of play in any sport where the ladies and guys both play similar sports, girls get concussed more frequently than the boys do. And it's not even close. It's a big leap up. Okay, so there's reasons for that, but they're all kind of guesses. Nonetheless, what it means is that if you've got 2 boys and 2 girls in your family and they're all in sports, it's just as important to make a call to my office and get them that gold standard test. Even if they've already had the impact test, cool, I'm cool with that. I'm glad that they're out there doing that, giving you something, okay? But if you want the true gold standard, it's way more than just a test, all right? It's a physical exam, it's a case history, and it takes time. If you've been to my office and you've done this, like we've had a number of families lately, because we did a talk up at North Dickinson, these teachers and their kids have been in. You bring a husband, wife in with 2 kids, this isn't 5 minutes apiece. All right, this isn't a group test that you sit down and do. Man, me and my staff, we're going to invest an hour into that family to give everybody a thorough case history exam if needed. Now, if all of them walk in and say, nope, none of us has had hits to the head, my 4 kids are perfect, I just want a baseline test, yeah, then it's quicker. But if there's any history of hits to the head, whether it's in sports or car accidents, falls off of the jungle gym type stuff, where they hit their head, slips and falls on ice. We had one recently where the girl came in and a friend had jumped on her, and then they collapsed to the floor. And it was just a playful jump, it wasn't tackling her, trying to be mean. It was just woohoo, jumped on her, and they fell to the floor and she conked her head, got a big egg on the back of her head. Well, that's a dig deeper moment, okay? Because you got to find if that caused an injury that's perpetuating the mismatch that goes on between the brain and the body that sets you up, okay,
But doesn't that lump tell you, send a message from your head or your brain that,
well, you get a lump to the head, it means
you better get this checked?
Well, yeah, but you know what? They did, it's like, the mom was called out of school and hey, we got to, get her looked at. But there wasn't much done beyond, there's no fracture or whatever. So now in my office, we ran the test and she hit a low number, plus a history of an impact to the head.
Okay.
Then we dug deeper, and when we palpated the upper cervical spine, and remember, neurosurgeons consider it brain surgery down to C3. Okay. Why? Because the brain stem, which controls all your basics of life, blood pressure, breathing, things like that, extends from the brain through the skull down to C2, C3.
Okay.
So when you get an injury significant enough to damage the head, as an EMT in my past, we were always taught, assume a neck injury. Oh, how prophetic that is. Because when you have a concussion, and concussions involve upwards of 90 G of force to get, a whiplash, which can be painful, is 4 to 10 Gs of force. So if you got 90 Gs of force to the brain, right below the brain is the upper cervical spine, pretty easy to understand. You'd have at least 4 to 10 Gs of force involving that, which can tear ligaments, and that's really my specialty, is ligament damage assessment. Okay, so that's why we do the evaluation we do. Okay, we do it thoroughly. It's individualized. Okay, so it's again, this is different. If you're there saying, "Oh, my kids had that testing at school," I get that. I've heard that from coaches. They're wrong. That's not what we do. It's way deeper than what those students have been to. So if you're a coach and you're listening and you're saying, "No, we've had that done. My parents don't need to hear this," I beg to disagree. All right, your parents do deserve to hear this. Your athletes' parents deserve to hear it. They're the ones that are responsible for that child's brain. Not you as a coach, not you as a trainer so much. It's the athlete's parents need to hear this. If you're an athlete's parent and you haven't heard my concussion talk, I'd love to come and talk to your group. Okay? Sure. You need to feel confident that your kids are playing safe and smart out there. And you've got to be able to make that decision. Without a in-depth personalized examination of the upper neck, the brain, using the most advanced test there is, hey, how can you be confident? You just can't. And this is your child's brain we're talking about. This is nothing trivial. It's not like, well, they got a trick ankle that rolls once in a while. This is their brain. All right, we've all remember that brain on drugs commercial from like the 80s, 90s, like an egg frying in a pan. Okay. If you want to play Russian roulette with your child's brain, man, it's exactly what you're doing with all the data out there in front of you. You got to have the data out there in front of you. So that's why we do what we do. We don't take this in any way lightly. This is your child's brain. Frankly, this is your brain. Most of you listening have played some sport or another. You've been in some kind of a car accident or another. You've slipped and fallen on the ice. Heck, we're all Yoopers. There's ice coming, probably tomorrow up here, right? All right? So
Now.
yeah, hey, it's just life, right?
Yeah.
Life in the UP. So
Could it be that this might surface later down the road?
well,
You know,
yes.
say you do a test now, and of course, depending on what test you use,
Yeah.
nothing shows.
Yeah.
But yet, all of a sudden, from out of the blue, here comes the ailments.
Yeah. So if you do a test
All right.
that, like the best test, and that's what the NFL uses, all right,
Okay.
how's that working? Right? Vegetables for adults,
Yeah.
billion-dollar lawsuits, and 110 out of 111 NFL brains that were recently donated to science, Boston University published, had CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. Okay? So, yeah, there's problems that come on down the path if you don't have the right information in front of you. For instance, you risk an ACL tear, and it's a 3.79 times increased risk post-concussion. All right? So if you're not fully healed, your risk of tearing an ACL is 400% greater almost than not being concussed. All right? That causes depression in kids. It's a season ender. You lose playing time. You lose scholarships. But I'll tell you what, there's not a scholarship offer in the world that's worth my child being brain injured for life.
Yeah.
All right? And that's what you risk by letting them play without knowing what a good baseline is. Hey, and there's a way to play safely, and that's what that baseline we've been talking about. Okay, so give my office a call, 779-1300. We're going to work with your MDs, whoever you feel comfortable with. I'm cool with that, but this is my passion. Trauma to the neck and the brain, and helping people recover properly from it, or give them a baseline so that when they do have it, they know when they're fully recovered, not just guessing.
That's right. Right about 3 minutes. Now, where do you see this going? We know where we are today. In the near future, is it going to improve? What we're finding?
Yeah, the testing's going to improve. Okay, and the other ones are catching up. All right, don't get me wrong. You've got to. All right, and it's ever changing. It's in the news. There's stuff hitting it, like the Boston University 110 out of 111 study that did on pro football players' brains. What the NFL said, of course, is they're continuing to dig in their heels. Well, we appreciate what they've done with their study. There's more studying that needs to be done. You know what? Athletes are way ahead of that. And here's what they're doing. I'm a wellness champion, and as wellness champions around the country, the athletes that come to us, the pros, they're like not waiting for the NFL to catch up. All right?
Yeah.
They're coming in. Brooks Orpik, he's got a few Stanley Cup titles to his name. He's getting care from a wellness champion so that he can play safely. All right? You look at Sidney Crosby, another guy that just won another Stanley Cup, was out for a year and a half from concussion. He had all the King's men, all the King's horses there at his disposal, sat out for a year and a half, finally went to a mentor of mine, a chiropractor, got his upper cervical spine worked on, and has been back to play, and now won another Stanley Cup. So if you want that level of care,
Not only that, but safe play.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Sure.
So if you want that for your child, like Sidney Crosby got, if your child needs it, I'm not going to waste your time or money.
Sure.
I'm going to let you know. All right? I got lots of patients to work on. We're not going to fuzz this over. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear.
Okay.
Understand that?
Yeah.
I just had a patient quit today, called in and said, well, another provider told me that only twice a week is what I need. I said, you know what? I told my staff, here's the deal. For rehabbing soft tissue, it's not twice a week. All right? If you go to the gym and a trainer tells you twice a week is going to work, go to a different trainer. All right? You need 3 to 4 days a week if you want to change your body. And you need to do it for 3 months. Somebody tells you something less, they're selling you what you want to hear, not what you need to hear. at my office, and I was just at a soft tissue rehab seminar up in Marquette 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
And this guy is down in Chicago and trains there. And it was 3 times a week, 3 months or more. All right. You do 2-a-days with football players to bring them up to change their soft tissue, right?
Right.
My clinic, again, I'll tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. They may not mesh.
Thanks for your time, Doctor. If you have any questions, call Dr. John Nowicki at
779-1300.
For In Touch. I'm Aaron Harburn.